Okay. Okay, good morning, everybody. I take this opportunity to welcome officials from the Ministry of Finance, from the Auditor General's Department, from the National Lotteries Control Board, NLCB, and members of the media who are present and members of the public. My name is Boindra Tiwari. I'm the member for Caroni Central and chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. In a minute or two, I will ask the members of this Public Accounts Committee to introduce themselves to you. The purpose of this meeting of the Public Accounts Committee is to examine the audited financial statements of the National Lotteries Control Board, NLCB, for the years 2009 to 2012. We will not limit ourselves to that, although that is the main area of focus. The committee is desirous of hearing the challenges being faced by the key stakeholders at the National Lotteries Control Board in an attempt to determine some of the possible solutions to these challenges. The role of the committee is to help the NLCB improve its delivery of services in an efficient, effective, and economic manner. This meeting is being held in public and is being broadcast live on the Parliament's Channel 11 and Radio 105.5 FM and the Parliament's YouTube channel, ParlView. Viewers and listeners can send their comments related to today's topic via email, parl101@ttparliament.org, or via Facebook, facebook.com/ttparliament, or through Twitter @ttparliament. Now, what I will do is that I'll ask members around the table and the Auditor General's representatives to introduce themselves, and I will then go to the officials of the Ministry of Finance and the other members who are here from the NLCB, etc. So I will start on my right with Senator Henry.
Morning, everyone. Lester Henry, member.
Good morning, Adrian Neons, member.
Good morning, Taharko Bika, Vice Chairman.
Morning, Sharice Sipazad, member.
Good morning, Ayana Webster-Roy, member.
Good morning, Anisha Bash, Assistant Audit Director.
Good morning all, Shiva Sananan, Assistant Auditor General.
Okay, and now I will ask representatives of the Ministry of Finance and the members of the board and other representatives of NLCB, if they will introduce themselves, please.
Good morning, Chair, members. I am Michelle Durham Kisoon, Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance.
Morning all, Chintamani Suku, Acting Director, Ministry of Finance.
Good morning, Masita Bidesi, Business Analyst, Acting.
Good morning, Eustace Nances, Chairman of NLCB.
Good morning, Michael Jogi, Director on Secondment, NLCB.
Good morning, Wendy Dwarika, Financial Controller.
Good morning, Ricardo Board, Deputy Director, National Lotteries Control Board.
Okay. Huh? Yes, what about, would the people in the back please identify themselves? You have access to a mic there? Yes, okay. All right.
Good morning, Rolf Clark, Online Manager, National Lotteries Control Board.
Good morning, Carl Philip, Accounting Service Provider, NLCB.
Good morning, Charlene Lewis, Auditor 2.
Trisha Chun, Legal Advisor.
Good morning, Lysandra Thompson, Marketing and Public Relations Officer.
Good morning, Yana Molino, HR Assistant.
Good morning all, Candy West, Supervisor in St. Lottery.
Okay. I wonder, would the Permanent Secretary care to make an opening statement?
Chair, I would leave the floor for the chairman. However, the Ministry of Finance, as you know, is the line ministry, and we are here to facilitate the board in its policy guidance, and I think I would just leave it here for the chairman.
For
to
now,
take it.
okay. Chairman of NLCB, could you make your opening statement, please?
All right, good morning again, Chairman and members of the committee. The NLCB is pleased to be here today and express gratitude to the committee for allowing us the opportunity to participate in this morning's session. The National Lottery Control Board is a statutory body established by the National Lottery Act of 2104 for the promotion and conduct of national lotteries in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. It is the only body authorized to do so in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. The NLCB currently operates a variety of games such as Lotto Plus, Playway, Cashpot, Pick 2, Pick 4, and Scratch. The NLCB falls under the responsibility of the Ministry of Finance. As a board, we recognize the importance of having proper accounts, which resulted in the retention of PwC to assist in bringing the NLCB accounts up to date. We also strive to strengthen the weaknesses identified from the previous Auditor General's report. The board has embarked upon the process to review the internal operation of NLCB with a view to enhancing the contribution made to the government and, by extension, the public of Trinidad and Tobago. We look forward to the discussion and the outcome of the discussion so that we can guide going forward to improve the operation of the NLCB. Members of the committee, thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your opening statement, and Permanent Secretary, thank you very much for your own preceding comments. I will start by asking some general questions that I think might be of interest and value to the public who generally engages these meetings. Some of them watch on television and they pay attention to what is happening, and it's important for them to be part of the engagement that we have with NLCB this morning. And in that sense, I want to ask some general questions at first so that the public will know what is the entity that we are dealing with, what they do, and what kind of money we are talking about in this particular instance. For the guidance of the general public, can you indicate, Chairman, what is the approximate annual income of the NLCB?
The general income is about $3 billion last year.
Okay.
Revenue.
What has been the lowest ever receipts of income in your recent memory, let's say within the last decade? Yeah.
The lowest revenue that we would have received
Yes.
over the last few years?
Yes.
Well, in 2008, it was $1.4 billion.
Okay, and what is the highest you've ever had?
$3 billion.
All right, so you say generally, on average, about $2 billion you bring in every year. And you're now at the level where you are bringing in about $3 billion a year. Is that okay? Is that correct?
Yes.
And what is your expenditure like?
Our expenditure is about 90% of our revenue.
Okay.
So,
and so that you have a return of about 10%.
correct.
Now, how much of that goes to the Minister of Finance?
All of the surplus goes to the Comptroller of Accounts. and also, I should say also to the Sport and Culture Fund. So around 7% goes to the Sport and Culture Fund, and the balance, 93%, goes to the Comptroller of Accounts. So all of our surplus is supposed to be remitted to the government.
Okay, and that is calculated after
That's in net.
expenditure,
Correct.
income over expenditure.
Yes.
Right, okay. Now, how many terminals do you have in Trinidad and Tobago? And after you answer that, for the sake of the member here for Tobago, if you can indicate how many terminals in Tobago separately.
Chairman, I will ask Mr. Rolf Clark, the online manager, to give us those details.
Numbers?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
The number of active terminals over the last, for up to 2018, December 2018, would have been in the vicinity of 1,000. Okay. Tobago, quite distinctly, would be approximately 40 terminals.
Okay, but so in the entire country, the jurisdiction, you have about 1,000. Okay. Do you make money on every terminal?
There are performance expectations, and generally, yes. There are some areas or some terminals where we may have situations of people which we consider community terminals, where they may not be actually producing, being very productive, and not generating large sums of returns to us.
How many would that be, let's say, in the 1,000?
I would say less than 3% of them.
Okay. Now, does that mean that they are losing money or that they are not generating any significant income for you?
I would say they may not be generating significant income to us, but losing money, they may be barely covering their minimum expenses in terms of rentals and that sort of thing.
Okay, so is it true to say that you do not lose money on any terminal of the 1,000 that you have, although some may be more profitable than others?
I would say that would be so.
Okay, so everything then makes money, and there is no terminal that does not make money. And you are in this business in a monopoly situation, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so your only competition is what?
Chairman, I'll answer that question.
Yes.
Our competition presently would be the legal wayway operators that we have who do not contribute to the 10% tax that we are charged on our terminals.
Okay, and what is the relationship between the gambling houses and yourself? How do they fit in the structure of the management of gambling in the country?
Gambling houses, Chairman, in this case would be the regulated, the legal gambling houses or the
yes.
illegal? The legal ones.
Gambling. Okay.
Well, as far as I know, as far as I'm aware, the legal gambling houses would be paying a contribution to the Ministry of Finance for the machines that they would have, the roulette machines and stuff.
So they do not operate through you, is that what you're
No,
saying?
they don't.
Okay, so that is separate and distinct.
That is separate and distinct, correct.
So you have a monopoly in the games that you play, but you don't have a monopoly on gambling.
Quite correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
And your two competitive challenges are from the gaming industry, what they call the gaming industry here, the gambling houses, and from Wayway.
The illegal operators.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And is there anything else, either legal or legal, that is a competitor for you in any way for the gambling, the pool of gambling dollars that might be available in the country?
Right, so we have like the casinos, the casino tables, the casinos.
Yes.
Right, they According to the market share that they have, it would be about 2%.
Who has 2%?
The casinos. These are 2018 figures.
Right.
Right.
Casinos have 2%.
Right. We have the illegal playway, which is illegal wayway. They contribute 5%. The NLCB contributes 12%. The roulette machines, casino roulette machines contributes 14%. The casino slot machines contribute 29%. Horse racing contributes at the moment 0%. The bars with the roulette machines, they also contribute 28%.
These are bars with roulette machines?
Bars with roulette machines.
As a separate category?
As a separate, yes.
Okay, so when you add the roulette machine here, you are talking about, did you say 25 or 28?
28%.
So this would be, roulette machines on the whole would be 28 plus 14, is that correct?
Correct, yes. Yes, Chairman.
Okay.
And the market, the entire market size would be $25.6 billion. That's according to the 2018 figures.
Okay, now these figures are very, very helpful in understanding, first of all, the pool of money involved in gambling, and secondly, to understand the structure and the breakdown of the gambling industry, both legal and illegal. And out of that, you only receive, your highest receipt is $3 billion. So that there is, are you telling me, and I want to make this, I want to understand this clearly, that there are approximately $23 billion worth of gambling in Trinidad and Tobago that are outside the control and jurisdiction of the NLCB?
It would seem so, Chairman.
Okay. Now, how did you come up with these figures that you have here, 14%, 3%, etc.?
These figures would have been from the Ministry of Finance Gaming Task Force.
Ministry of Finance?
Gaming Task Force.
Okay. So that would have been done, I suppose, in preparation for the legislation?
Yes.
And stuff like that. All right. Thank you very much. I'll come back with more questions to you, but I wanted to have this general outline of the industry and the role of NLCB in it. And I will ask my colleagues if they will continue with the questioning. Who would like to go first? Senator Henry. Yes.
Yeah. Morning, everyone. The chairman asked about your revenue, and you mentioned in the response that your cost is 90% of your revenue. I find that to be quite high for an operation such as a lottery. What is the biggest element of your cost? Can you break down?
Okay, the biggest element of the cost is the prize money, and that is about 80%.
About 80%, okay.
Right.
And what is the next? I see under gaming costs, you pay quite a tidy sum to Gtech. The 2018 figure is $242 million in the submission that you gave us.
That's correct.
Okay. Can you tell us what does Gtech do for the sake of the public, what does Gtech do to earn this amount?
Gtech provides the platform, they provide the technology to run the games and the platform on which the games are run. And they also assist in our marketing, promotions, etc.
Okay, so the platform they run the game, you mean the computer software?
Correct, yes.
Stuff like that?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a contract with Gtech, or is it a permanent arrangement, or what?
We do have a contract with Gtech.
Okay. How long is that contract run?
I will ask Ms. Chin, the legal officer, to answer that question, please.
Chair, the current contract with Gtech runs until 2021.
Okay, and when did it start? So it's
The contract started in 1993.
1993. Oh, okay, that's quite a long. Yeah, okay. On a different line, the audited reports that we have from your submission, we noticed that none of them was signed by the management or the auditor. Is there an explanation you can provide for that?
The audited reports were not signed.
Yeah,
I believe they were signed by the chairman and the director at the time.
The internal audit report submitted to the parliament.
Oh, I see.
Some of them were not signed by the auditor, sorry.
I shall ask Ms. Charlene Lewis to respond to that question.
Okay.
That would have been an oversight in preparing the documents. It would have been oversight. I apologize for that.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning again. There's the first issue I want to deal with is the lack of financials, and the last financials that we have in front of us, the income would have been about $1.8 billion. So if the income increased about $3 billion, and without figures, you can average about $2 to $2.5 billion per year. That means there's about $12 to $15 billion that is not accounted for in an entity that should be generating profits. And the NLCB, under a different board, came in front of a committee of the Parliament, the Local Authority Service Commissions and Statutory Authorities Committee, in 2017, November, so about a year and 5 months ago, and promised to rectify the situation, saying that the accounts should be brought up to date, and blaming a salary issue for the whole issue. But what is the problem now? Because we are here and some months since, and there are no financials in front of us. Can we get an answer on that?
We currently have an accounting company bringing the financials up to date for us.
What company is this? And
this is Price Waterhouse Coopers.
And what is the? How much are they being paid for this service?
I shall ask the financial controller to give us the figure.
$1.3 million.
1.3 million TT dollars for what period?
They are to bring the financial statements up to date from 2013 to 2017, and also respond to the management letter points for 2010 to 2012.
Okay, so this will be an external audit. The issue then would be, when would this be?
We have contracted them for 6 months, a period of 6 months.
Expiring?
And that, yes, and they started the exercise in January, and we're hoping that it ends in July.
All right. Chair, I wish to defer for the time being.
You okay?
For the time being, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to follow up on some questions that Member Henry asked. I noted that you all mentioned that Gtech, that's it?
They are now IGT, International Gaming Technologies.
Okay, you first engaged them in 1993, right?
We did.
How did you engage the company? Through a competitive process?
I shall ask Ms. Chin, the legal officer, to give us some information on that.
From our information, IGT was engaged through an RFP, and they were the successful bidder for that RFP process, which was conducted in 1993.
And how long was the contract for initially?
The contract ran, that initial contract, until 1999, and then it was amended in 1999, and then there were further extensions. So in all, there are 5 amendments to that original contract.
So I would like to find out if NLCB would have assessed the market to see if there are any providers offering better technology and more competitive packages.
I cannot say as to whether the NLCB has assessed the market at present. However, I do believe that there was an intention to do an RFP in 2012.
Why wasn't the RFP done?
I am not certain as to why the RFP was not done.
Is there any particular reason why this company is continuously engaged?
I cannot speak as to why the company is continuously engaged. However, I believe it may be because they are providing value in their services.
But if you haven't assessed the market to see if there's a better technology and a more competitive package available, then I'm not sure how you would have made that assessment. Would it be possible for you to do the investigation and submit the information in writing, please?
Yes, we will do so.
Morning. I'm concerned about 2 things. Your strategic plan, I noticed that it's not been implemented, and I'm wondering when you would have your plan implemented, because it seems you paid for it, and according to the notes we have, it wasn't implemented. Can you speak to that, please?
The strategic plan, 2018 to 2020, it was sent to the Ministry of Finance for approval. We haven't received anything to date as yet.
Do you have any idea when you will get approval? Because, I mean, we're in 2019, so your plan is running, but you're really not I mean, I assume you're not implementing the recommendations?
Well, we are still awaiting the plan to be approved from the Ministry of Finance. In the interim, and that may be your concern, in the interim, we are following the financial regulations, the directives of the board. We are doing business in accordance with the Audited and Exchequer Act, 1959, and we are running a very tight ship, as we say.
Thank you. I have 2 other questions to deal with your accounts receivable and accounts payable. I note that they are extremely high, and I'm wondering what you do. Well, let me talk about accounts receivable. What efforts are being made to collect your accounts receivable, and if they're statute barred, what are you doing to deal
I shall
with
ask
that?
Ms. Dwarka to answer that question.
Accounts receivable, or what we call our bad debt, it's really less than 1% of our revenue. Right now, we have a small debtors unit that is trying to collect on the debt. We are also going to be engaging a debt collection agency, which we've identified already. And we have recently implemented a credit policy. The credit policy speaks to a credit committee that will have oversight over the accounts receivable. It speaks to a bond for new applicants, new agents, as well as defaulting agents. And of course, we have a procedure for persons who have defaulted on their debt. We have a first notice, second notice, a final notice. It goes to the legal department after that. So we have been rolling that out recently.
What about your accounts payable? Because that's another huge balance. Is it that you're not paying your?
No, that generally reflects accruals for IGT. So basically, that is our biggest creditor, IGT. So it would reflect your total service fees and marketing fees that are due to them at the end of the month. That is not yet due. It's normally paid immediately after the end of the month. So that is not normally an issue.
That's not normally.
No.
Just one last question. Your bank account. We note that there were some large variances between your general ledger and the bank balances or bank statements. Can you tell me what you all are doing to deal with those issues? Because, I mean, you should have regular reconciliations done and that kind of thing.
Yes, so
this problem shouldn't arise.
Correct. The bank reconciliations were reconciled and they are now up to date. We did hire an account service provider, which is Mr. Carl Phillip. He is just to the back of me, and he has brought the accounts up to date. So we are now up to date with those, and we have reconciled the differences and adjusted it.
So I can assume that your accounting function, everything's up to date as we speak?
No, not everything is up to date. The bank reconciliation was critical,
Right.
and therefore it needed to be dealt with first. We have reconciliations that have not been done for a couple of years, and this is the reason why Pricewaterhouse is on board to help us do the reconciliations and bring the accounts up to date.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just to follow up on the question asked, in terms of the bank reconciliation, there are instances where there were differences of up to $88 million. And there were also instances where they said improper approvals were done. Is it that those reconciliations would have explained those discrepancies? And if there were any instances where there was a breach in policy, how was that dealt with?
Can I ask Mr. Carl Phillip to explain some of the differences?
Okay. Yes. I will look at let's look first at the Scotia account. We had a problem with the Scotia account in 2010, 11, and 12. We had variances of, in some cases, up to 50 million, right? The 50 million was caused basically by an accounting glitch where the posting was done in the wrong module. So that led to us having, the 50 million difference there. Additionally, we had problems that emanated prior to 2010 that we had to go back and adjust to bring the accounts more in line. And we have brought it down to approximately, say, $28,000 as a difference that we have been unable to reconcile in the Scotia account. And a determination will have to be made as to how to treat with that, that difference, because it's a question of a cost benefit. How far back do you go to see if you can resolve it? Because we went back as far as 2006 to deal with issues in the Scotia account. In the case of the FCB account, we had a difference that amounted at one time to as much as $110 million, right? And that was basically also to problems with posting in the wrong modules. And we were able to work on the account, trash out whatever differences, make the relevant adjustments, which we have presented to PricewaterhouseCoopers for them to review and give a final, let us say, a final position on it. And we were able to bring down that difference to $95,000 approximately. What we can say is that between 2015 to now, we have not had any other problems in the reconciliations up to January 2019. So we have not had any new issues between that time and now.
Okay, thank you. My question was basically in line with those large amounts. If were there any breaches in policy or process that would have accounted for that? And based on what you're saying is basically a glitch. So I'm fine with that. But also you all have an internal fraud policy. And you stated that any fraudulent activity goes to the internal audit unit. Are there any instances that, for the benefit of the viewing public, that you see any fraudulent activities being raised? And if so, what are they and how were they dealt with?
I shall ask Ms. Charlene Lewis to answer that question, please.
The fraud, we don't, I'm not really certain about the, what we have is, recently we had a whistleblower policy, but a fraud policy, we don't, as yet, I don't know if it's in the drafting stage. But we have had instances of whistleblower indicating to internal audit certain things that were happening, and yes, there were investigations and reports on these matters.
Are those matters closed?
No, they are not. Presently, we have one case that is actually before the court, and two other matters. One matter is before the fraud squad, and the other matter, it's still in limbo.
So arising from that information, then does the NLCB propose to have an internal fraud policy, and if so, is that part of the draft?
I shall answer that question. Presently, a draft is being done, a draft fraud policy is being done at the NLCB, and we intend to implement that very soon.
You could just indicate a timeline, please.
I'll ask Ms. Chin to give us a timeline, the legal officer.
I think in our responses we would have indicated March, so I think by the end of March we should have a draft policy in place.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thanks. I want to ask a few questions, and I would ask the Auditor General, Deputy Auditor General, if he would take into account some of these questions and maybe respond afterwards. Okay. The first question I want to ask is the expenditure breakdown. Senator Henry raised that issue of the expenditure, and I'm sure he might want to pursue it again, but I really want to pursue this idea of how give me a structure of the expenditure breakdown as you did for the pool of basically revenue sources in the gambling industry, if you can. I would be interested in that, because we are talking in this particular instance of $2.7 billion if you take away the 10% that you send to the Minister of Finance. So if out of $3 billion you only give $300 million to the Minister of Finance, you're talking about an equivalent of expenditure, or you can correct me, of $2.7 billion. So break that down for me, let me understand.
I shall ask Ms. Dwarka, Financial Controller, to take that question.
Excuse me. Okay, our largest expenditure is our gaming operating costs, which represents about 98% of our total expenditure. How that is broken down, we have our prize money, which is about 80%. We have agents' commission that we pay to all our agents. That represents about 9% of the total. And our service provider fees, which would be the payments to IGT, that's about 8%.
Okay, before you go on, could you explain to me, what is the link or what is the relationship between GTech and IGT?
It's the same company.
It's the same company?
Yes.
So we're just talking about one company?
Yes.
And that company has a monopoly since 1993?
Correct.
Right, okay. Okay, you want to say anything else on the breakdown of expenditure?
So I just said that the gaming costs are 98% of our total expenditure.
Yes.
And the other 2% is our administration costs,
All right,
which
so,
would be salaries.
so only 2% goes into
Correct.
administration?
Yes.
Okay, fine. I want to follow this up by asking about the internal audit situation. We have a situation where we only have audited accounts up to 2012. And the internal audit situation seems to be weak because you have now basically gone to Pricewaterhouse in order to address the audit issues up to 2018. Is that correct?
Up to 2017.
Up to 2017. So what is being done with internal audit in a company that basically, I mean, your company is really a company that spends money. Eh? So what is being done? What is being done for internal audit in terms of the NLCB?
Okay, Chairman, we are on the part of beefing up the audit department at this point in time. We are looking to recruit an audit manager and additional members of staff, as well as we are looking to have the audit involved in auditing other aspects of the entity as well as IGT accounts as well, so we can reconcile both. Okay. So we have some plans underway to deal with this problem.
Okay, but how do you explain, that you are still in this position after what Senator Obika raised with regard to your statement before another JSC in 2017?
Well, we had some challenges recruiting a company to bring the financials up to date, because remember, the financials were not up to date. And even the financials that were audited up to 2012 by the Auditor General, there was a disclaimer of opinion.
Yes.
So we had some challenges there. Even the PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, indicated to us that they have to find a line to start to move forward, because the Auditor General also indicated that disclaimer of opinion, that would have caused a little problem and a challenge for PwC in performing the audit. So
Yeah,
even the external auditors had a challenge.
Yeah, but their disclaimer, the Auditor General's disclaimer, really had to do with the fact that you did not answer any of the issues related to the management letter. Is that correct?
Well, from the information that I received as well, in addition to what you just said, there were some challenges with actually accessing the documents, the physical documents, the documentation, they couldn't find at all for those years. That would have caused another challenge as well.
But how are you going to address these things without capable and adequate accounting capacity, first of all?
Right.
And secondly, the equivalent in auditing capacity internally. Because for an external auditor to come from outside and try to put all of this information together without the requisite help from insiders who would be able to provide that information, doesn't that present a problem for the external, for the accounting firm? And doesn't it put them in a, perhaps not as difficult a position as the Auditor General, but the Auditor General basically found themselves in a position where they could not as you say, verify the numbers or authenticate the numbers. And they had no answers really on the management letters coming from within the NLCB.
What I could inform you of is a decision was taken by the present board of directors.
Yes.
To actually restructure that financial department, inclusive of the audit department. And we are working towards that in the shortest possible time.
All right, so you're restructuring finance. You are hiring accountants. Can I assume that that is part of it?
It is ACCA qualified personnel.
Okay. You are then strengthening and establishing and strengthening an internal audit capacity.
Yes.
You are pursuing this matter of PwC dealing with bringing your accounts up to date.
Yes.
And how are you reconciling your relationship with the Auditor General?
Well, recently our financial controller held talks with the Auditor General, together with PwC, in dealing with these financial accounts.
Okay. Can I ask you a question on a related matter, which is the legal infrastructure that you have? Do you have legal infrastructure inside the NLCB? Because when I think of it, it could be a nightmare of lawsuits and so on, given that you have 1,000 agents or entities with whom you deal. You have creditors, you have debtors, you have outstanding accounts both ways. What is your legal department?
The chairman will answer that question.
Thank you, Chairman. Under the new board that was put in 1 year ago, we realized that some of the structures inside the NLCB accounting need to be beefed up. And therefore, when we were put in there were no even a legal officer. And the first decision that the board took was to employ a full-time legal officer, because most of the legal briefs used to go to lawyers on the outside. So what we are doing now is beefing up the company by strengthening the company where the weakness is, and the areas of legal officer, accounting officers. We institute also an audit committee, which was not there before this board came in. So what we are looking at is the strength of the organization based on the financial regulation, the financial things that we dealing with, and we are focusing on that. So at this point in time, we put a legal officer in place. We have approved a total accounting system that will shortly be in place, and therefore we can work closely on developing the proper accounts.
Okay. So is the legal officer supported by a legal firm in the way that you have PwC supporting the financial element?
No, it's higher internally.
Okay. So you have a fully obligated legal officer, one person.
Yeah.
And other legal matters are handled by whom?
External.
Okay. So you have a range of people, or you have one company?
No, we have a array of people where we select now and then to go to.
All right, okay. I would ask the Auditor General's representatives here now if they could comment, having heard the answers to some of those, and maybe if you'd like to ask questions of your own.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, the last financial statement submitted to the Auditor General were the 2012 statements. And the audit report was a disclaimer of opinion. And this was due to the fact that the majority of the items in the balance sheet could not have been substantiated. And we work with all our clients to use different mechanisms to verify figures. But we just couldn't do it in this case, and we just had to put a disclaimer. This audit report was issued in 2015, October. We have since met with the accounting personnel of the NLCB and the consultants who are preparing the financial statements and the responses to the management letters from 2010, 11, and 12. This meeting was held on the 25th of January 2019, and the department was assured that these documents will be available from June this year, at least 20 13 accounts, statements onwards. The Auditor General has a few concerns, because to be on a conservative basis, I mean, we heard about $3 billion just now, but that's conservative for what we have verified. The revenue generated in 2012 was $1.8 billion. So this gives an estimated conservatively $11 billion during the period not being audited, and it's a large amount for state enterprise.
Yes, Senator
And
Tahaka raised that.
Right, and it was raised before, and we acknowledge it as well. Even the AG is concerned about the verification of these figures because they go straight to the Consolidated Fund and the Sport and Culture Fund. The Consolidated Fund is very crucial to the survival of Trinidad and Tobago, where everything is put there and we disperse from it. We were just also concerned about the delay in having the accounts corrected after 3 years. In 2015, we gave the audit report, because during the audit, we would have brought up issues, discussions. At the end of the audit, we'll have an exit meeting where we will list all the issues. We give the management letter. Before the audit report is signed, we actually discuss the audit report before the AG signs it and puts his crest on it. So there were enough instances to adjust, if they could have been adjusted. But there's a 3-year gap between our last meeting. We're kind of concerned, why did it take so long? Under the heading State of Outstanding Financial Statements on pages 4 and 5, we note there's a financial controller, a chief accountant, an internal auditor, consultant. I believe there should be a cadre of junior accountants as well, trying to put together these accounts, but especially questioned through the response, the last line. The chief accountant is directly responsible for the preparation of the monthly financial statements. If monthly statements are being prepared,
you should be able to get
some
annual
format, unless it's a present situation not covered before, but it seems to be in the present tense. Something should have been available. Again, we are not sure what has transpired. And we would also like to know if the private accountants, it was said that they'll be on a 6-month contract, but would they form part of the permanent financial reporting mechanism of the NLCB? Or would there be institutional strength for the NLCB to move forward without them, to take their accounts to that level that we want it to be as a nation? And the strategic plan, question 4, identified the weaknesses of the organization. And one major weakness was the governance structure. And as a little before there, the internal audit support, the legal support, and we just want to make sure what has been done to get that structure in place. Because from that structure, we can produce what we should produce as a statutory board. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Auditor General. I have a good few questions based on your comments, but I will leave it and let my colleagues go around the table and let them ask some questions, because I'm sure that what just transpired here over the last 10 minutes or so would have stimulated questions in their own mind and thoughts. So I'll start with Senator Tahaka.
Thank you, Chair. So I want to revisit that the issue of the accounting department, because when you look at the response submitted to the preliminary inquiry from NLCB, you're seeing, I think it's 24 persons under the financial controller, unless, of course, there are vacancies on establishment. And there are financial institutions in Trinidad and Tobago, whether they be non-banking or banking, where the salaries aren't that grand, but persons do their job, all right, because they accept the position. So to me, it is totally unacceptable a year and almost a half there afterwards saying that the salaries aren't good and that kind of thing. That to me is not acceptable. The issue is why, if the majority of the staff in the organization are under the financial controller, we don't have accounts. I think we have to get the answer for that question. It doesn't make any sense to anyone who understands finance that situation should be as it is, and that should be the excuse. So I think if we can get a better answer for that question, it would make some more sense.
We do provide monthly financial statements, and we provide it to the board. The income statement, I would say, would be a little more accurate. The statement of financial position, which is what we call the balance sheet, those are brought forward figures. Those represent balances at the end of a certain period. If the balances for 2012, 2010, 2011 are not correct, then I cannot place a whole lot of reliance on our current balances. And therefore, I needed to have those financial statements brought up to date, properly reconciled, so that I could present a financial position that is fairly reliable and accurate. So even though we are generating financial statements on a monthly basis, I cannot say that I am 100% confident at all on the information that we have. So, and that is the reason that we have not presented any financial statements to the Auditor General for auditing.
I just want to say that I hear you and I respect that is the position being advanced by NLCB, but I reject it out of hand because there's a reason why there's a Auditor General department. And if the Auditor General department comes in and they can work with you and they can determine, well, maybe upon scrutinizing the accounts as prepared, there is need after for the services of an external consultant because maybe you're not well resourced in terms of your staffing because of your salary restrictions, which aren't that great anyway. Then maybe that can come in after the fact, but not before the fact. You know, I mean, I don't accept that position, but we have to move on. The question I have has to do with something that happened in December 2018 regarding the Fast Five draw, the Fast Five game. Forgive me because I don't play that game, so I have to kind of just refer to what was reported. There was an incident where there was a glitch, and how would I put it? The NLCB had to be reimbursed to almost $1 million. I think it was over three quarters of $1 million, because by the supplier, I think it's Gtech, during the Christmas period. So NLCB was reimbursed by Gtech, but did NLCB reimburse the players of the game who would have lost because of this glitch, which would have produced winnings of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was the issue. The Super 5 draw, there were 9 draws roughly, December 2018, and the winning numbers were drawn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. NLCB was reimbursed by the supplier. This is information that is in the public domain. Can we give any information as to whether, 1, this is accurate information, and 2, whether, if it is accurate, whether the players were reimbursed by NLCB?
Member, I shall ask Mr. Clark, the online manager, to take that question.
To the best of my recall, there were no refunds or reimbursements to customers or players arising out of that incident. There was, in fact, a glitch on the system, as before every game is brought up on a daily basis, we need to do a test run to ensure that the system is functioning properly. Unfortunately, that ran over time, and during that period of time, some persons were online and happened to benefit from that particular glitch as the test numbers came up on the live system. The test numbers, which are done on a daily basis, came up on the live system when they went live. No refunds were made, as far as I am aware, to any customers who might have been on the losing end of that exercise.
And while that might be an ethical question, so I can't make a judgment on an ethical question, because that's subject to opinion as to whether they should have been reimbursed or not. The question is, were they informed? Was the public informed sufficiently when NLCB recognized such a glitch? So therefore, they would have recognized that they would have lost, but they would have lost due to a glitch, as opposed to just walking away thinking that they lost fair and square. Was the public informed?
The public was not informed specifically that they were to return to the NLCB if there were any if there was any fallout from that situation. But certainly the public was informed that there was a glitch on the system because it became very common news, public news.
I'll defer this time, Chair.
Well, quick follow-up question on that before I go around to my colleagues. Was any money paid out on the glitch number that repeated itself?
Yes.
So people who had the glitch number on 5 occasions would have benefited, but there was no remedial payment is what you're saying, right?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Follow-up, Senator Henry.
Yes, I'm trying to get a grip of what this Gtech company really does and what value they really add. Because under your submission in terms of gaming operating costs, they get 4 different income streams from the NLs, from the operation. Service provider costs, Gtech IMG marketing fees. 2018, that was 1.5 million. Gtech IMG service fees, 10 million, for up to quoting the 2018. Then you go down to Gtech online marketing fees, 32 million, and Gtech online service fees, 210. Now, the 210 is the largest, of course, by far, in terms of the fees that they get, which most of the other fees have remained somewhat reasonable, somewhat constant from 2008, which is the data we have here. But online service fees went from 110 million to 242 in 2018. What is the formula? How do you arrive at that? Somebody familiar with the operation? What's the formula? How does it work?
Okay. IGT service fees is a percentage of the sales. So there's a matrix. So up to $1 billion is a 6% of sales. After the next $500 million, 6.25. The next 500 million, 6.5, and anything over $2 billion, it's 6.75% of sales.
Okay, all right. Thanks for the information. But I want to just drill down a little bit more and see when you say online marketing fees of 32 million as opposed to online service fees, what really is the difference? Could anybody explain what's,
Member, marketing fee, IGT is responsible for marketing all our online games in terms of Playway, Pick 2, Pick 4, Cashpot, Lotto. So the fees, the marketing and the promotion of those games will fall under those fees.
Okay, well then how does that, so when I go to your administration expenses, the document you submitted, there's a category called promotion, publicity, printing, advertising, online. And we have from 2015, I could just quote the figures in the interest of time, 47 million, 2016, 33 million, 2017, 31 million, 2018. So what is that? If they are responsible for marketing and so on, what do you spend 47 million in 2015 and 24 million, what do you spend that on if they are responsible?
That is the sponsorship that we give back to society based on 6 pillars that we operate with.
So can you break it down?
So it's 1% of the revenue, 1% of the sales in this case. So if it's $3 billion, it would be 1% of that, which is $30 million.
So, yeah, you're not being very clear. So in terms of charities, what?
The charities like donation, sponsorship, that sort of thing. That's what it's for. People write into the NLCB for assistance, a donation for some event or something, and the board will meet on it and decide whether or not. And that is where the money will come from to pay towards that.
Okay.
How much money do you give to that sponsorship activity annually, approximately?
1% of the sales generated, the revenue generated for the NLCB. So for 2018 or 2017, it would have been 3 billion. So it'd be 1% of that, which is about 30.8 million, something like that.
Okay. And there are a set of criteria for doing that, or a policy, or a framework, or a set of rules?
Yes, there are 6 pillars that we follow. I'll ask Ms. Thompson to list the pillars for the committee.
Hi. Okay, so the pillars that we base sponsorship on currently are youth and youth development, sports, culture, community, and education. Those are the 6 pillars that we base our sponsorship allotment on.
Chair, I want you to note carefully too, in 2015, the figure was $47 million. In 2016, it was $33 million. In 2017, it was $31 million. And in 2018, it went down to $24 million. Even though we had the authority to spend $30 million, we continue to manage the resources and manage the finance of NLCB by not just giving away all the cash that we need.
I take the numbers, but I don't take the conclusion. Yes, please.
Sorry, can I just follow up? I have 2 questions.
Sorry.
I want to follow up on the chairman's comment. How do you choose the people to give the funds to? I mean, I understand your pillars. So people write in on sports, whatever. But what are the criteria used to select the charities or the causes that you fund? Is there a committee?
There is a sponsorship committee who oversees that, a member of about 6 or 7. They all deliberate and come up with numbers and therefore make a decision which is the best figure that they can donate to the public.
And that committee is made up of what? The directors or external people?
It's made up of the staff, sponsorship committee staff, and 1 convener, a director, who supervises it.
I just want to touch on risk because of the quantity of funds that pass through your books. And I'm looking at AML, CFT threats. Do you all have an updated policy? Are your staff trained? And is the policy implemented?
I shall ask Ms. Chin, the legal officer, to take that question.
Yes, currently on staff, there are 2 officers who are dedicated persons for the purposes of FIU, and so they are currently in the process of receiving any necessary AML CFT training for the purposes of this business.
So this hasn't been rolled out to your staff, to everybody, including the operators and concessionaires and so on?
I am told that, yes, it has been rolled out to staff, and this policy, other persons are aware of the policy as well within the organization, as well as retail agents.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Henry.
Okay. In terms of an area we covered slightly before, but in terms of the audit reports, in your submission you said that 2011 to 2014 internal audit reports could not be found up until that time. Have these internal audit reports been found since your submission? How have you dealt with that? And who is responsible for?
I shall ask Ms. Charlene Lewis to take that question.
Okay, those periods were periods before I assumed at the National Lotteries. They were in soft copy, I believe. But since I think there were some problems with the server and some data were lost in that process, I was able to get some documents from 2010, but I did not locate reports for the years indicated there.
So they remain, well, essentially still missing?
Yes, basically.
Okay. All right. The last question in this period is, in terms of your risk management strategy, are you in the process of formulating a plan to deal with risk management in the company? Is that part of your, involved in your strategic plan or anything like that?
I shall ask Ms. Lewis to take that question.
Concerning the risk management policy, it was discussed with the audit committee chair. Yes, I know there are some plans for the board to be more forthcoming with the matter of risk. We have had discussions on that, yes.
Well, because a proper risk management strategy might have helped avoid the problems that occurred in 2011 to 2014, where you would have backup systems and so on if the server goes down. So that, I think that's a very important aspect of your going forward. Okay?
Thank you very much. Senator Ayana. MP, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to follow up on the issue of sponsorship, and then I want to ask some questions specific to Tobago and the terminals, right? So in terms of the sponsorship, how is the public made aware that the NLCB has this facility that could benefit citizens?
I'll ask Ms. Thompson to take that question.
Currently, what we do is that for certain events, obviously, the media would be there to cover it. And we obviously would have like different events that we have done branding. Obviously, with schools, etc., we are very careful with the type of branding that we use. So depending on the type of event, we would make sure that we brand it and that we would have press conferences depending on the type of event, or we would get covered in the media based on it.
So the branding, etc., would promote the organization, but how is the public made aware that through the NLCB we have a charitable, I don't know, it is a grant that we give out or whatever, and how will the public know how to access the funds? How, if there's an application process, do you have to come into the organization in person? What is the, how is it rolled out?
Okay, so currently what we do is that we only sponsor registered organizations. There is some information on our website, but there has not been anything, as far as I've been here about 6 months, so there's nothing that has been actually been out in the public domain to let them know that they can come in and sponsor.
Last 2 years, approximately how many organizations would have benefited from the program?
I don't actually have that information on me, but I can get back to you with a written figures on it.
So how many organizations in Tobago would have benefited and the categories of the organizations? So if it's youth, religious, that sort of thing.
No problem, I will have all that
Cultural,
written
right?
for you, yes.
Thank you
Okay, no
kindly.
problem.
My other set of questions would be in terms of the terminals. You said we have 40 terminals in Tobago. What is the monitoring framework? How do we know that the operators are actually being honest? So I will give you a scenario that was reported to me, right? In my constituency, I heard that there's a particular booth, we could call it a playway booth, where when you purchase a ticket and you win, you can't go back there to get the money. They will send you to another agent in Scarborough. You're smiling like you're aware of it.
I shall ask Mr. Clark to take that question.
Not specifically, but there are locations where people sometimes avoid paying customers and winners for their own reasons, and they would refer you to other places so that you can be paid, which is not something that we really want to encourage, because customers should be paid wherever they present a winning ticket. And if that is happening, it's something we would be willing to treat with, very willing to treat with, and who those people may be.
in the last year, incidents of robbery with particular agents?
There is a question mark about these robberies that may be taking place, not just limited to Tobago, but also here in Trinidad. We have reason to believe that some robberies are self-managed. People are quite prepared to take a blow over the head after they have lost our funds, either through gaming themselves or utilizing these funds for their personal use. We have a few situations like that that we are trying to treat with. That's the reason we are trying to improve how we manage our agent network in terms of their accounting to us.
And what measures have you put in place thus far to help to
We,
improve that situation?
as the FC has previously stated, a credit policy is now being rolled out, and we are strengthening our monitoring system of the agents and their activity so that we can flag much earlier the sort of mismanagement that may be taking place at any given point in time. The system is being improved to accommodate that, and hopefully in the next 2 months or so, we will have a much improved system to allow us to accomplish that far more effectively.
And just one more, please, just one more, promise. What is the process for allocating terminals? Because some people come and complain, I've been writing to NLCB for years trying to get a terminal, but I'm being turned on all the time. However, XYZ has one and they're not really in a location that the public could access easily. What is the process?
Mr. Jogi, would you permit me?
Mr. Clerk, answer the question.
Thank you. An application to the director, the chairman, it's all that is required. On the basis of that, we would then do an evaluation of the location. If we did have decided that it is one that we would want to pursue, we generally try to acknowledge all applications that are received. We may not evaluate all, but we would try to acknowledge all received. Some selections would have to be made because obviously we cannot assign terminals to everyone who would apply. It may not suit our purpose at any given point in time. So some assessment has to be done, and on completion of that assessment, a determination is made by a committee.
A quick follow-up.
All right, I want to
Can I
just
a quick follow-up?
What's that?
Okay, no, I want to know what's the margin on these machines? I mean, you don't have to give the exact details as to how much money people make, but what are the kind of returns? How lucrative is this?
It's about 25,000 per week on an average. 25,000 per week. Per week.
I'll take that.
That's the margin.
margin.
No, sir. If you permit me again, sir, just to clarify, we have minimum criteria of weekly sales of 25,000, which we would want each agent to achieve. But that could vary up to probably 100,000 a week to 150,000 in some instances, depending on the particular trade style, location, as the case may be.
No. I thought the question was, what would be the margin to an agent?
8% commission they are paid at this point in time.
8%?
On sales.
All right, thank you. I have a couple of questions that are troubling me, and I want to raise them now. The first issue is the issue of the glitch. On each of those 5 occasions when the glitch occurred, what was the payout on each one of the 5 instances?
The total payout for the 9 draws, I believe, was $700,000.
$700,000 for the 5?
The 5 draws, yes.
$700 cumulatively for the 5 together.
Together.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand clearly. Okay. And you said that matter was settled between GTech and the NLCB, is that correct?
Yes, that matter was settled.
Okay. The second question I have is when you had the breakdown of expenditure and you talk about the fact that 98% is operational expenditure, 80% for prize money, agents 9%, service 8%, etc. And then we got a few further breakdowns on that. And you said 2% for administration, but you didn't raise any, we just heard the issue of sponsorship, which I suspect that you might have had under administration. But then there's the issue of entertainment, the issue of special events, and the issue of, and another issue I want to raise related to that is the issue of monies not collected by prize winners, which came up here in one of the reports. So can you tell me a little bit about those three things? We've heard about the sponsorships. Could you tell us a little bit about entertainment, special events, and the monies not collected by winners?
Entertainment and special events. That is also forming part of the administration cost. I'm not sure what line you may be looking at.
Well, I'm not looking at a line. I'm really extricating it out of your breakdown of expenditure.
Okay.
So if you had 2% for administration,
yes,
how much would that be? About 0.5% or something?
Much less.
Much less?
Yeah. So of the 2%, I would say in 2018 it was about 51 million.
Okay.
Total expenditure.
All right, so you have a hard figure.
With total admin cost. Of that, 48% would be relating to sponsorship.
Okay. And the final question that I want to ask, and then I'll pass over to my colleagues who have some more questions, is this issue which came up after the Auditor General spoke, Deputy Auditor General spoke. And it had to do with the fact that there was an ongoing conversation between the Auditor General and NLCB in which the issue of the organization and the structure of the organization would lead, if properly engaged, to the resolution of some of these issues having to do with financial system and audit system dysfunction. And I want to ask a little bit about that because in looking at the chart, he itemized some of the people in finance that you are supposed to have on board. We heard from, I can't remember if it was from the chairman or from the director, that steps were being taken to hire people in the financial sector to deal in the matter of finance, as I say, a finance department. And we also heard that internal audit systems were being put in place. Can you tell me a little bit about what is happening to the organizational structure and what is happening to your hiring strategy in the context of a strategic plan to bring all these audits up to date and have a fully functioning, effective, responsive organization called NLCB?
Chairman, the NLCB, based on the proposed strategic plan, has an organization structure that would be more or less an improved structure to take into consideration the different types of businesses, the dynamic business that we're involved in now. So hopefully when that that strategic plan is approved, then we can implement what was approved, the aspects of it.
Let me just ask a question here. The plan has not been approved yet.
Not
and
the,
it's from 18 to
20.
20.
Yes.
We're now in 2019 and we are moving along month by month.
Yes.
So you have to wait on the approval of that before you can act, is that it?
Well, in the absence of that, we use the manpower that was done before, and we have the board who approves personnel to come on board, short-term and service providers, more or less. So that's the only avenue we have in this case to fall back on.
What is the relationship between the NLCB board and its mandate to govern the NLCB organization and the Ministry of Finance, to whom or to which it reports? Because if the organization thinks that a strategic plan is necessary in order to bring some order, system, structure, and to basically make decisions in order to people the organization in order to do certain things, and the Ministry of Finance has approval power but does not approve, and that then limits the capacity of the organization to proceed. I mean, it seems to me I think we put them in a kind of catch-22 situation. Can you explain a little bit about the relationship and why the strategic plan is held like that?
Okay, so I understand the dilemma. The strategic plan is being considered. Some of the work has already been done. Unfortunately, feedback hasn't been conveyed to the organization as yet. That said, the NLCB can bring forward its recommendation on what it proposes for an organizational structure. So we would encourage NLCB to bring forward that as well. We can look at both documents simultaneously. Admittedly, the strategic plan has been held up in the ministry for a while. So in this case, the organization can bring it forward. So we can move forward because we are in a dynamic environment, and we understand that the organization needs to change with the times.
What I would advise Permanent Secretary, I mean, basically on behalf of this committee, is that they have a problem of their finance department, and I think they have to fix it, or else they're not going anywhere. The second thing is that they have a problem of internal audit, and they have to fix it, or else they're not going anywhere. And I think that they have to have an organizational structure that makes for efficiency with these various electronic relationships they have with the monopoly player that really provides the service and the 1,000 outlets that actually bring in their income. And if they do not fix that, I think you're not going to have the level of efficiency and effectiveness that you need to. And since this is not an institution that is a liability on the state and are actually making a contribution to the consolidated fund, which contribution is crucial to the functioning of the government system, I think we should try and expedite this thing so that we can get the best out of an operation that could do a lot better. But whatever its problems and limitations, it certainly is not a burden on the state. So having said that, let's fix the things so that we bring them into the realm of fiduciary responsibility and accountability, and let's do the things that will give them the opportunity to function better. And let's not hold them back on those things, because what the state wants and what the Ministry of Finance would want is for them to make money and to give the consolidated fund more money. All right? So you could hold them to account to managing their expenditures better and all of those things, but you need to give them the tools in order to do that. So I would simply mention that to you.
Yes, Chair. So I agreed. The organization can bring forward its plans.
Chair, permit me. NLCB did a manpower audit in 2014, showing the whole structure of NLCB should be run. That manpower audit has been done and it's sent for approval, which shows you to run the NLCB what it takes of having all its departments, its legal departments, its management department, its staffing department. And I think that manpower audit can put NLCB on a footing to run the organization in the best interest of Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
Much.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, that's fine. Yeah, this is my final set of questions. In terms of the issue I raised before, in terms of risk, I understand that a detailed risk assessment was done roughly about 2 years ago. Is that correct? Could anyone verify that?
Yes.
It was done.
It was done, yes.
So has there been any improvements or follow-ups based on this risk assessment?
Yes. Within the past 6 months, we would have introduced a risk assessment app that we follow right now at the NLCB.
Okay. And final question is in line of we're in 2019 now, and we heard that Gtech's license is up until 2021. Are you starting to put anything in place to send out an RFP or to get more competitive system instead of just having this company continue as a monopoly? Because you will have to start doing that now.
I shall ask the chairman to take that question, please.
Yes, presently we're engaging a provider to do RFP. And although Gtech contracts end in 2021, there's a provision for it to go to 2024. And I can ask the legal officer to further on that, please.
Yes, there's a window within which discussions are to be held, and if the window expires, then there's an automatic renewal for a further 3 years.
When is that window open so we could make sure we don't miss the boat?
Approximately March of 2021, and it is a 3-month window.
Question here. I mean, this provider has been in a monopoly position since 1993. Do you or do you not want to open up tenders in order to create a more competitive situation for yourselves? Or are you so satisfied with the existing provider that you are prepared to go along? I mean, this is an important thing.
I'll ask the chairman to take that question.
Sending out an RFP, all right, and start to look at other service provider to make the market a little more competitive and to make sure that we get value for money.
I understand.
Yes, thank you. There was made a mention earlier of a 10% tax that some of the agents were late in paying or they didn't pay. Can you explain that a bit more on that for me, please? I wasn't clear on it.
I shall ask Ms. Dwarka to take that question.
Okay. In December, I think, we identified that there was an error on the system in that the liability reports that the agent would normally receive on a weekly basis was not accurate in that the tax was not included in the figure that they were supposed to remit to us on a weekly basis. So that had to be recalculated, and it has been corrected. And it turned out that there was an outstanding balance that was due from the agents representing this 10% tax. The agents have been advised of this, of the amounts, and we have collected on most of it, about 80 to 90% of it. There's about a 2 million amounts outstanding at the moment.
Okay. So, is there some contingency if an agent doesn't pay that you have?
We have given them. Well, we will give them some time. I think it's another month to pay off their debt, and then we will have to probably take further stringent measures, and that may be suppression of the terminal until the amounts are paid.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Just on a side note, I looked at the org structure that you all submitted, and I recognize that we had some deficiencies in some of the positions. I'm assuming this would have been part of the strategic plan. One question is, when are those positions intended to be filled, or is it an approval is required first for the positions to be filled? And two, I looked at the variance in salaries with positions, and it doesn't seem to be in line with seniority. And you're seeing persons at lower levels of the org structure with higher salaries. Can you explain that, please?
Right. So, member, to answer your question, there are some vacancies that we need to fill, and we're working on that at this point in time, as in keeping in line with the present org structure, as well as the salaries that you see, the variation in salaries. Persons who are lower in the organization or lower levels receiving higher salaries, those persons were brought in on contract. Those are service providers, more or less. So they would have been receiving a higher salary than persons at the top. Right? And as well as something needs to be done to attract the talent in the organization in terms of remuneration. Because you can't be running a $3 billion company and paying people remuneration that is not conducive to market value. Right? So we need to look at that. And maybe the new strategic plan should be looking at that.
I'll pass on to my colleague.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Jogi, I want to concur with you, because I spend most of my time in the financial, banking and non-bank financial sector. And I'm sure, one thing I'm sure of is even at your position, you will struggle to find someone to replace you because your salary is very poor for your level, without saying what it is. Then when you go down to the structure, I cannot see this organization attracting a single ACCA qualified accountant. I can't see that happening.
To correct you, sir, just
if it happens, let me say before you correct. If it happens, they may see it as a transitionary job.
Okay.
But yeah, you can say it now.
But we do have one.
Okay.
Our financial controller is ACCA qualified.
Right. So then you have.
And she says that she's underpaid as well.
Well, we know that. So what I'm saying is, even the highest salary that is here, highest salary here, is a bank manager would not stay in your organization. A junior bank manager, lowest level bank manager, wouldn't stay in your organization for that salary. And that's the highest salary, and that person is not even in structure, so they don't have all the benefits of being a full-time employee. So the point, in fact, the highest salary for someone in structure is a regular staff member in many organizations in the financial sector. So bank tellers make more money than some of the persons in structure. So I'm saying that it's not attractive at all. And we really hope that whatever the process is to get this addressed, where exactly are we in terms of what is the organization that addresses that?
The salaries, that would be the CPO as well as the Ministry of Finance would have to assist us. And I'm sure the Ministry of Finance, their representatives are here and they'll be hearing you. They'll be listening. And hopefully you may have some idea, seeing that you have the experience with salaries and stuff, on what the benchmark should be for an organization like this.
Well, you don't have to look for the Auditor General will know better than me, because they have the full gamut, at least in this sector. So the reality is, and the problem is this statement. This point was made when you all appeared at that other committee in 2017. All right. I believe the chairman was Mr. Senator Roach at the time.
Yes.
So the issue is not an issue that is not known, but the problem that I am having is that we don't have a deadline to address the issue, because they can attract talent and keep them, So that's my final submission, Chair.
Hi, I would like to follow up on the glitch, the issue with the glitch. Do you all have an ongoing audit of the IT systems, programs, etc., of your service provider to make sure that their systems are robust and that this glitch is not really the norm?
I will ask Ms. Lewis to give us some information on that, please.
Could you repeat your question, please?
Sure. I'm just following up on the issue with the glitch. If you have ongoing audits of your providers' systems to ensure that the glitch is not really the norm, because IT systems have a way of malfunctioning, and you rely solely on IT systems to run your business, your gaming business.
Okay.
And you need to make sure that these systems are robust and there are no ways that people could hack into it, the systems are working properly, etc.
Okay. Yes, Senator, member. We have a department called the ICS department that monitors IGTs, all their IT and different structures like that. And we also have an external auditor who is not based in Trinidad that also it looks at the entire online gaming system of IGT. But yes, we have one internally.
And they produce reports which are sent to the board?
Yes, they produce reports.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Earlier, we were told that gambling and gaming is a $25 billion industry, right? And the NLCB has 3% market share, am I correct?
12% market share.
20% market share.
12%
market
yes.
share? Okay. What is your strategy to increase your market share?
Well, to increase the market share, it is no secret that the NLCB comes with being involved in a dynamic environment and global gaming environment. We come up with newer games that track the different age levels in society, as well as we have to find some way of competing or eliminating with the illegal operators, the illegal way operators, or the illegal gaming industry. We need to capture their market share too. Well, we have ongoing discussions, and there have been some arrests with the police and stuff. So quite recently, we had some persons arrested for illegal gaming.
How many new games you have introduced over the last 2 years?
I will ask Mr. Clark to give us some information on that.
The most recent introductions would have been the Fast Cash and the Super 5 games. But generally, we resort to promotions on a regular basis to increase our revenue streams. What is planned, if I may be allowed, is to expand the agent network in the coming months to be able to further capitalize on, any opportunities out there.
All right, thank you. I want to thank you very much. We've had a full and, I think, rich session, and we got a lot of information. I thought that the NLCB was forthright in its in the information that it's provided, and it gives us an opportunity to make a fair assessment of what its situation is as an institution. But that does not mean everything is okay. It's clear that from the various reports and from the documents that we examined and from the questions asked and from the responses and also from the Auditor General's response, that there are things that have to be addressed and have to be fixed. And as we close, I just want to focus on some of those things as we go forward. The first thing is that you absolutely have to get your accounts in order. I don't see how you can continue like this. And I don't see how you can postpone having made a commitment in 2017, bringing this matter to conclusion anymore. So I would say take the next year and get your business in order up to 2018. You say you're doing up to 2017 now. In 1 year's time, it is reasonable I know that you are behind, but I think it is reasonable to ask by the middle of next year that you get all your accounts up to, I would say by this time next year, that you get all your accounts up to 2018 in order. Because what you have is the incompletion of some of your audits, and you have audits that have been done that are unsatisfactory. And I feel that this really has to come to an end for an organization that is spending so much money. I really think it cannot be allowed to continue with unaudited accounts and without the requisite fiduciary accountability demanded. And I think that you have to meet those obligations. So have your auditors do their job and let them work with the Auditor General to complete the exercise to the satisfaction of the Auditor General, who is responsible, that office is responsible for your accounts. Okay, so can I have some kind of commitment on that, please? And we will put it in the recommendations. To the Ministry of Finance, to you, Permanent Secretary, I would say, now that you've had the benefit of this discussion, can you help to facilitate the expeditious approval of the strategic plan so that NLCB can get its organization in order, and therefore the demands that we are making can be better serviced as we go forward, okay? What that would mean for NLCB, and it is your responsibility, not the Ministry of Finance. Their responsibility is to facilitate that strategic plan to get your organization in order. But your responsibility is to get a proper finance department. What you have there is atrocious. You cannot continue like that. The second thing is that you have to get a functioning, effective, compliant, insistent internal audit capability in your organization. With so much money flowing in your organization, you have to have that. I think the chairman mentioned an organizational review that was done and that you have an organizational plan. And Senator Tahaka, in his interrogation here this morning, raised the issue of the need for some kind of salary review. I think that the organizational review and salary review and action on these would be a valid thing to do going forward. And I would suggest that in collaboration with the Ministry of Finance, that you find a way to do that so that you can get the requisite capacity and functional organization going. I would like to say, based on the information that was given here by the chair, make sure the RFP for the service provider to NLCB is done in good time to facilitate a competitive bid. Don't let the time pass and then we end up with a default situation. And we have already heard today here that there is a written default option in the contract. So that does not mean that the same provider cannot be provided if the bid is competitive, but it must be an open and competitive bid to facilitate that process so that you do not be a victim in the process. I think the competitive bid puts you in a stronger position. Now, if approval is given for the organizational, for the strategic plan, first of all, and the organizational strengthening and salary review process, I want to say to you that the employees who now work for you must be taken into account and must be given a fair chance by proper training and development, even as you go outside to look for fresh and new talent. So this must not be an opportunity to take advantage of people because you change the organization, charge on them, and change the game. So some humanity must be brought into the process so they get adequate training and development in the process and be given an even chance to compete for any jobs that might be available. And at the same time, you want fresh talent because fresh talent renews an organization and gives it impetus to do well. The good news coming from NLCB is that you are not dependent on the state and that you are actually contributing a significant amount to the Sports and Culture Fund and to the consolidated account. This is very good news, and it is something to be valued by the taxpayers, by the government, and certainly by this committee here. And what we ask, therefore, is a little more. The issues I've already raised, I won't go again, but I think the issue of expenditure must be prudently handled, notwithstanding the fact that you are in surplus and that you must be an accountable organization for the monies that you are given the opportunity to be custodians of. Okay? So that would be my close. I want to thank you again for your contribution. I want to thank the Auditor General and his office for the contribution here this morning. I want to thank the members of the media who were here, and I hope that they would cover this as they normally do in a way that makes sense for the population so that they help the population to understand what is happening to these institutions, which from their point of view require good corporate governance. And I want to thank my colleagues as usual. This is this has always and consistently been a very good and strong and independent, I would say, PAC. And I want to commend them for their forthright and insistent questions to this NLCB organization. So thank you very, very much.